That's a very busy man in the gospel, wouldn't you say? Jesus is on the move. He is the antidote to Job's reading. So we get sort of the other end of it, because Jesus comes to bring healing and life and hope for other people, something that Job does not have. And we're only in the first chapter of Mark's gospel. And so he's moving very quickly to show us the effect that Jesus has on others. If you remember last week, he cured the man in the synagogue. And so this picks up right from there. So he's at the synagogue, he's at Peter's house, he's got people coming to him, he's going back to them, he's going to pray, he's coming out, he's going to another town. I get worn out just reading that gospel. He's working 60, 70 hours a week. Why? Because he wants to bring God's good news to people. He wants to free them of their fears. He's come to overcome evil, and he's come to bring them life. And so you can feel and see his energy and his enthusiasm for preaching the word and bringing good news to others. He says, that's why I've come. I've come to do this work, and I'm ready to do it. And so out and off he goes to do that work of God. And a wonderful example is, of course, the healing of Peter's mother-in-law. And Mark does something interesting in this little text here. He uses the word in Greek that means to raise you up. He grasped her hand, he raised her up. The next time Mark uses that word is when Mark says God raised Jesus up from the dead. So Jesus comes to bring resurrection. He comes to bring new life. So his touch is a living touch and a living gesture for people. The same is true in our lives. She's touched, she becomes new, she serves as a disciple. Jesus' healing love and touch is here with us every single day, is it not? Sure it is. And the wonderful thing about it is, when we open ourselves up to his healing love and power, it gives us the ability to be a healing agent for others. And oftentimes we don't even think about that, right? I mean, but every one of us here, in different ways, in unique ways, plays a part in the healing ministry of Jesus. Do you believe that? Let me ask that again. You sound like Job right now. Do you believe that?
Yes.
Oh, phew. I got the same thing last night. I was getting a little, that must be the weather, huh? Getting a little concerned. Yes, we play a role in the healing ministry of Jesus. Often in ways that we don't recognize or we simply take for granted. Sometimes it's as simple as a word, or a gesture, or a touch, or a smile. We know because it's happened to us, yes? Sometimes that's all it takes. I'm so glad you called. You know, just, somebody's there for us. Rachel Remina, a doctor of medicine and also a doctor of healing, writes this about our power to heal. The healing of our present woundedness may lie in recognizing and reclaiming the capacity we all have to heal each other. The enormous power in the simplest human relationships, the strength of a touch, the blessing of forgiveness, the grace of someone else taking you just as you are and finding in you unsuspected goodness. I love that last phrase. The grace of someone else taking you just as you are and finding in you unsuspected goodness. I have a story to illustrate that. Of a woman whose life was changed with someone else simply by what she said. That's a story I told a few weeks ago at the 6:30 Mass on Wednesday night, but it's just a beautiful little story. And it's about a woman named Mary Ann Bird. Mary Ann was born in the mid-1940s, started going to school in the early 1950s. But Mary Ann knew she was different. And she was very self-conscious, and she was someone who thought no one would ever care about. She was born with a cleft palate, very, very severe, and so she got a very disfigured face, nose. She got trouble with vision and with hearing and with speech, because her speech would be a little bit slurred. This is back in the days before they could repair a cleft palate, all right? So she was very, very self-conscious, especially when she started school, because all the kids would just stare at her. And what happened to you And so she was just ashamed even to tell them. And so she would say, I fell down and hit some broken glass. That was her response to other kids. And by the time she was in the first grade, she was convinced that there was no one in the world who could love her outside her family. So this was her joke, way of going through life, right? So she gets to the second grade, and they have a new teacher. Her name is Mrs. Leonard. And as Mary Ann describes her, she was short, round, and happy. And all the kids loved her. Well, early in the school year, they had what I call today a primitive hearing test. Now, I'm old enough to remember having these in first or second grade. You didn't have any equipment. All you had is that the students went behind a door and closed the door, and the teacher, she'd turn from her desk, they'd be behind the door there, she would say a phrase, one student at a time. They would listen, and they would repeat the phrase back so everybody could hear it. All right, you with me? So she would say something like, it's raining out today. The child would say, it's raining out today. Or the sky is blue. Or I'm wearing black shoes. I'm wearing black shoes. And so Mary Ann was very self-conscious about doing this because she already had the hearing issue. And she was the last one in the class to go. So she goes behind the door, closes the door, and Mrs. Leonard, as she describes it, says to her the 7 healing words that changed her life. Mrs. Leonard said to her,